Feeling. I saw these movies when they first came out in the theater, and then they did the special editions, and I saw each of the three one more time. So what I'm saying is, you're probably going to know more about it than me. So maybe I should ask you the questions.
Mark, when you finished shooting Return of the Jedi, was it your sense that this was the end, that this was the last of the Star Wars movies, or did you think there were going to be more?
Absolutely the last, because we had a beginning, a middle, and an end. I remember when the very first week of shooting was in North Africa, in Tunisia, which the British pronounce Tunisia. But I was talking to George then, and he talked about how originally it was 4 trilogies of 12, which was really puzzling to me. And I said, well, why are you starting? And then he said, and we've cobbled it down to 3 trilogies of 9. And I said, well, why are we starting from the middle? Because even then I realized that if these things were to go forward, that the technology would improve, and by the time they got around to going back in time, the special effects would give it away that they were much more technologically advanced than what we were doing. And he said, well, this trilogy is the most commercial. I said, oh, okay. But I remember asking him, and I don't even think I believed that the 3rd trilogy would feature us. I thought it would be all different characters. To my knowledge, we were just going to do a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it was over. So the feeling on the set when we were doing this was really much like the end of the semester, the last couple of months of school. Yeah, clear out your locker and bring your gym clothes home and all that. So it was mixed feelings, because everyone was anxious to sort of, complete the mission of doing the 3, but we knew it was going to be the last time we'd see everybody. And, I'm still in a state of shock that they want to do more. No, seriously, I am. And when people ask me questions, first of all, you probably know more about it than I do. George did say, he had lunch, invited us to lunch. We're trying to figure out, well, what's he going to talk about?
It was us, it's you.
It was my wife. My daughter was with us, but they said, oh, Chelsea's going to go have lunch with George's daughter to keep her out of the meeting. It was me and my wife and Carrie Fisher. And we were thinking, well, wait a second, I think he's going to release these in 3D. Maybe he's going to ask us to do publicity or something. We just had no idea. But my wife, I think, said something about, what if he says we're going to do more movies? And I said, yeah, right. That wasn't even on the radar for me at all, And I sort of settled into my elderly recluse phase in my career where I'm on 4 animated series, and, I have my dog, a small, modest house out at the beach, and, a pool, and, not having to get out of your pajamas all day long is a successful day. And, because you don't understand, it's like, how often you go back and go through your old high school yearbook? I dare say, rarely. And so that's why I rarely look at these anymore. And, a lot of times you meet parents, and the parents are excited, and they're pushing like a 6-year-old towards you who's like terrified. With a look of sort of awe and abject horror on their face. It's like the kid that gets up close to Santa Claus and doesn't want to sit on his lap when they can see the veins in his nose. And because you can't really identify when we did these, because of the fashion or the cars or the hairstyles, a lot of these little kids think we made them two weeks ago. Not at all. So I say, relax, I'm Luke's grandfather. But
disappointed in Darth Vader, very, very disappointed.
Well, like I say, it's just so shocking to me that it has had the impact it's had. I mean, I rarely do these kind of events, but I thought, well, whoever would dream that there would be a day on the calendar that's devoted to this? So, Look, I'm here for you guys tonight. I'm not getting paid a fee. I'm not getting any of your admission price. But I feel like I owe you. I mean, after all these years, we're almost like part of the family. And, I think, oh gosh, it is May the 4th. Well, put Svengoolie on the timer. Go into Hollywood. My usual routine of Svengoolie and Saturday Night Live. Have you discovered the MeTV network? It's awesome. It's the only network on television that's showing old black and white shows like Thriller, Twilight Zone, Honey West, Combat, 12 O'Clock High, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. I mean, it's my favorite retro channel on TV. Sergeant Bilko, are you kidding me? Car 54, where are you? So, anyway.
We'll talk about all those.
All right, fine.
I remember interviewing you years ago, and you talked about being a young guy in the first movie, and you really weren't sure what the hell was going on. Like, you had a space ape on one side and a man in a metal suit on the other. By the time you got to Return of the Jedi, did you feel like, okay, I understand it, or would you show up on the set and be like, what is this giant?
No. And to be quite honest with you, when I read the first one, I said, if they do this and they're able to capture what they've written on the page, and this is before John Williams' incredibly breathtaking score, it's long before, all the special effects went in, it just leapt off the page, and I thought, even if this doesn't do well at the box office, it's got cult hit written all over it. I see just endless midnight screenings with that pungent smell in the air. Because it was a fantasy that had a sense of humor. I mean, the robots I thought were hysterically funny. I understood my role was the straight man, that, Luke sort of doesn't get the joke. But the fact that these robots this is all your fault. I mean, come on. Machines arguing over who's going to get blamed. I thought, this is really great. I mean, most science fiction was very antiseptic and dry and pristine. This had a beat-up, used, dented, oil-stained feel to it because the art direction was superb. And plus, it was really funny. Really funny. And I thought it was very smart to have the Han Solo character because he was a skeptic, because he was cynical. He represented the kind of resistance we get from a modern-day audience but to how corny it was. Hey, kid, I don't believe in the Force. And you go, you don't believe in the Force? Well, it's so great, come on. Please, like the Force, please.
You win the Harrison Ford impression.
Well, but what I'm saying is it just was perfect, in terms of covering all its bases, even the female role. She wasn't a damsel in distress. She's all, you call this a plan? Give me that gun. I mean, it was really ahead of its time in the sense that it used so many elements from classic movies that we all have ingrained in our DNA. If we like movies, we've seen cowboy movies and pirate movies and World War II movies and all of those elements that the sum is greater than, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It was, it referenced the Dam Busters and Hidden Fortress and Red River and all of these classic kind of pictures. And like I said, I remember predicting, because Robert Watts was the production manager, and he said, on the first day I met him, what do you think of this thing? And I said, look, my friend works at the LA Art Museum in the film department. And I said, look up from King Kong, from 1933 or sound era on, the grosses of every fantasy, science fiction, and horror film. And he printed it out. We poured over this material. This is just before he was going off to do it in 1976. And I predicted, this thing is going to be bigger than Planet of the Apes. I meant the Charlton Heston one, not the Tim Burton one. Which hadn't come out, obviously. But I did think at the time, I said, I bet you, because I figured out we have to make 2.5 times what it cost to do the sequel. We were budgeted at 7.5, so that comes out to 15 plus 3.5, so 18.5 million we'd have to make. I said, oh, easy, this thing will make at least 25 million. I'm sure of it. And so I thought we were going to do the second and third one. I remember saying, this is a winner. This is totally a winner. I don't see how this could fail. But, I might have been whistling past the graveyard because I felt that way since, and I'm not always right.
You often hear stories about classic films that the story was almost this, and then it changed. In Return of the Jedi, were there any possible paths or outcomes that may have been different from the way the movie actually turned out in the early script phases?
I don't know about the early drafts, because by the time I read it for the first time, I was shocked because I said, oh, I know where this thing is going. I've got one mechanical hand now. I'm all in black. I'm well on my way to the dark side. I thought that was going to be the plot of the third one, that Luke is tempted back and forth. And I thought the great fake out would be to make the audience believe that I went awry. And at the last possible moment, save either Carrie or Harrison from death, and that would be the twist. I didn't know that was going to be the plot of the prequels. So I was really disappointed when I read this. I'm like, oh, darn it, And really, come on, a second Death Star, really? But to be fair now, to be completely fair, if George had known he was going to do 3 movies, he probably would have saved the Death Star's destruction as the climax of the third picture. But remember now, we couldn't be sure that we'd be able to make 2 and 3, or whatever the numbers are. You guys have to help me out. From my perspective, because really the prequels are standalone, beginning, middle, and end, and it takes place before I was born, so I'm not required to know anything about them. I'm not being facetious, believe me, I'm not being facetious. I really thought that's the way it should be. I'm not going to be hanging around on the set going, in my day, we used to... Nobody wants to hear that. Just go away. So I said, I'm not even going to visit the set unless they invite me. Sound of crickets inserted here. I never got my invitation, so I never did meet anybody. But no, I think that's what happens. And plus, it had to be a little anticlimactic after Empire, which is my personal favorite, because the reason is it was deeper and darker, it was more cerebral, it required more from the audience than the first picture, and of course it had that just tremendous twist ending, and the fact that the protagonists were defeated, which, if you look at it as an opera, Act 2 always ends tragically. But again, when I read, the first one I read, and I thought this is amazingly great. The second one, I was stunned. But remember now, in the script for Empire, at that climactic moment, Vader says, "You don't know the truth. Obi-Wan killed your father." And I screamed, "No!" And it's just as it is. He locks my hand off. It's exactly as you saw it, except Irvin Kershner pulled me to the side one day at Elstree Studios and said, "I'm going to tell you something now. And George knows, and I know, and when I tell you, now you're going to know. But if it leaks, we'll know who leaked it." I said, "Yes." And he said, "We're going to dub in, 'You don't know the truth. I am your father.'" And I thought, oh my God, how great. Now even David Prowse, who was doing Vader, didn't know that. He did the line, "You don't know the truth. Obi-Wan killed your father." And we were up on a big rostrum, 50 feet off the floor of the soundstage, and there were big wind machines to make the sound, to make the... Everything is looped, by the way, in these movies. It's hard enough to say dialogue and sound natural when it's, as convoluted as some of this dialogue is. And then you have to loop it, which is, dubbing it in after the fact. That's just even more, another layer of difficulty to make it sound natural. But my point is that within 2 days of filming that scene, because you have these background artists playing stormtroopers and whatnot, just people milling about, people that are only doing day player jobs or whatever. Within 2 days, on the front page of the Sun, one of Rupert Murdoch's more notorious tabloids, on the front page, in a little, not headlines by any means, but in a little box it said, "Guinness head baddie in Star Wars 2. So it leaked. I mean, we might have filmed that scene on a Tuesday. By Thursday, it was in the newspapers. Now, I had great satisfaction knowing that they'd leaked misinformation. And when you think about it, if that had been the twist, if it turned out that Guinness was the villain, that still would have been a great twist. But it gave me great satisfaction to keep that secret as long as I did. Because, I mean, I didn't tell anybody. At the screening, Harrison turned around. I'm not going to do them again because I'll get in trouble. But he didn't know. And I love surprises. I really love to keep surprises. But in this day and age, forget about it. It's impossible to keep a secret. They asked me to be a part of the 2-hour season finale of Criminal Minds. And I read the script, and it was a really interesting part. And I thought, oh, this is great. And I said, you know, what'd be fun is to keep it a secret, because they're building up this character. You don't know who it is. And there's a reveal at the end of the first hour, and then, you know, the second hour is about me. Within 12 hours of saying okay, it was on tvguide.com. And I went to the producers. I said, it wasn't me. I told my daughter, don't tweet it. My sons, don't email or tell anybody. Well, CBS leaked it. So I don't know about you. I had 4 sisters, and my 2 older sisters were all constantly saying, you're getting an extra sketch for your birthday. Well, don't tell me. They go into my parents' closet.
They leaked it.
Yeah, they would leak
Your sisters
it. No, and they go through, you know, they go through the you know, all the usual hiding places and tell you what you're going to get for your birthday or for Christmas. And I don't like that. I like surprises. So, you know.
It's hard for me to remember now, because I was young when this movie came out, but was there doubt that what Vader said to you in Empire was maybe a lie? Because I'm thinking of that scene with you and Yoda where you say, is it true? And I wondered, among grown-ups at the time, was there a sense of maybe it's not true?
Well, I don't know. Maybe you'd have to poll audiences, because you want to have some ambiguity there. You know, it's...
But in your mind as the actor, when he said this is what the line is going to be, were you thinking, oh, wow, that's a great twist, or he's lying?
No, I thought it was a great twist. What I thought was a lie was when they said, Leia's your sister. I said, oh, come on. I mean, really, this seems like a really lame attempt to top the Vader thing. You know what I'm saying? Why not have Boba Fett remove his helmet, shake out some beautiful hair, and oh my God, it's Mom! You know, she's been a double agent all these years. I remember shooting those scenes, you know, on Tatooine. The first 10 days we were out in the desert, you know, and I'm thinking, ooh, there's blue milk for a prop. I'm going to drink some of it just because if it's there and it's blue milk, why wouldn't you? Oh, it was revolting. It was hard not to gag visibly when I sipped it. But I can remember asking George all these questions. You know, why am I living with my aunt and uncle? Where's Dad? You know, where's my mom and all that? You know, as it turned out, I realized later, he was really good at just making up complete lies to satisfy an annoying actor. You know what I mean? Because I listen to these stories and I go, oh, that's really? Okay. Because he said, oh yeah, your father was having a lightsaber duel with Vader on the edge of a volcano, and Vader knocked your father in. I said, oh, I hate it even more now. But, you know, again, that was all made up.
What did he tell you about the mom?
I'm trying to remember if I brought that up or if he even sort of just skirted the issue. I don't remember a specific answer to that.
You went into the volcano too.
Who knows? But I do remember reading, again, when I'm reading this one, I said, they dispatched Boba Fett just like that? That doesn't seem right. I mean, they built him up, and he's so awesome, and that great costume, and Jeremy Bulloch did such a great job, you know. It just seemed, really? They just flip a switch on his backpack, and he gets...
I thought it was not like a chump.
Yeah, it just seemed like it was a missed opportunity. Now, you know, like I say, you guys probably know more about these movies than I do, because you just watch them, you remember all the details. But I do remember, now, this was the only one, aside from a little pickup shots in Death Valley for the first film. The first film locations were in North Africa. The second film, and then we do the sound stages mostly in England and the special effects here. Then on the second picture, we were in Finse, Norway for the ice planet. And Dagobah, the Yoda's planet, was all on a sound stage, which I thought was really great in the sense that it had that feel of the original King Kong. It had real depth and layers when they lay the smoke in, and you know, like one of the things, I've only had one creative meeting about the new films, but I do remember saying, we've got to find a proper balance between CGI and old school models, miniatures, and that means, I really love hearing the response, because as far as I'm concerned, well, I would be more interested in hearing what you guys want to see in the new movies. You know, that's what the challenge is to try and meet the expectations of what you guys want. And I think there's nothing wrong with CGI, but I think you have to have a balance, because the camera perceives the width and the depth and the weight, even if it's a miniature model. The camera just realizes that. And so when you have too much CGI, if the clouds are CGI and the trees are CGI and the buildings are CGI, you're getting to a point where the figure in the shot is like, it's a hybrid of an animated film with live action, you know? And I want to have a more organic look so that we don't, get into Roger Rabbit territory. Well, that's just me. I mean, don't get too excited. I don't imagine they're going to really, their top priority is what I want,
Let's take a couple of questions, and when you ask your question, name one quick thing you want to see in the upcoming movies, but don't ask too much about it, because we don't really know. Neither one of us.
We don't really know. In fact, he told us we were going to do that Kathleen Kennedy was going to run Lucasfilm, and that we wanted to do 7, 8, and 9. He didn't tell me that he sold it to Disney. I read that on the internet the day before Halloween. And I thought, really? And then I started thinking, well, we haven't done too badly by the Marvel franchise. They did real well with the Muppets. The more you think about it, the more it makes sense. And plus, it was nice to see George seeming to be so happy. He's getting married. He's, probably having made this decision, this sort of momentous decision. He seemed happier than I've seen him in a long time. Because you wouldn't believe it. I mean, on these movies, especially on the first one, you go, cut! And you look over at George and you just go, all right, let's do it again, but this time, do it better. That was his Oscar-nominated direction. And he seemed so morose. He always seemed so unhappy. And even though I could sort of understand it, because you imagine this thing in your head for years and years and years, and then when you're trying to actualize it for the cameras, it's always a little disappointing. I mean, you can't, until it's augmented by special effects and music and judicious editing, it can look pretty funky. And we're always trying to cheer him up. I remember always trying to cheer him up.
Well, let's take a couple questions from the audience. So, okay, yes, here, you don't have to, but if you have some character you'd love to see more of, shout it out.
Well, A, thanks for being here, and for 36 years of making a crazy impact on Hollywood, so thanks for that. In the new movies, I would definitely love to see Luke achieve true Jedi Master status on the same level as Obi-Wan and Yoda. And C, this is my question.
Heavy on the Jedi mind tricks, less on the lightsaber duels. That one in Empire nearly killed me. It was like 6 weeks of that stuff, where you just think, I'm being beaten within an inch of my life on a daily basis. My body looks like a map of Tierra del Fuego with all the bruises and bumps, and it was awful. And then it's cut down to like 6 minutes. Like, that's no big deal.
This is kind of, feel free to know, but can you do the Joker laugh for us?
Hey, by the way, as long as we're plugging the Joker, believe it or not, I've been nominated so many times for that thing, and I always lose. The first time I was nominated, I said, well, really, for an Annie? What's that? It was for animation. It's like, the Oscars for animation. And I said, well, who are the other nominees? And it was on the phone, and my agent goes, well, let me look. Let me see. Oh, Eddie Murphy for Shrek. I said, stop! Then a couple years later, I got nominated for Mask of the Phantasm, the first feature-length animated thing I did. Also for Return of the Joker, for Batman Beyond. But the first one I said, and the second time I got nominated, I said, and who am I up against again? I said, well, let me see. And she looks at the, let's see, Jeremy Irons for Lion King. I said, stop. Then there were 3 or 4 times where I got nominated. I thought, whoa, I have a clear shot. I'm going to win this thing. And, you know, Jack Black would beat me. And then Stephen Merchant beat me. In fact, recently, Stephen Merchant beat me in, and it was only in Culver City. So, you know, I was home in my den, you know, before the ceremony was over. Because you know, sort of, once you lose, you slink out the side door with your tail between your legs, and the seat filler takes your seat. But, and then the guy that, Paul Crocker, who did both Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, said, you got nominated for a BAFTA. And I said, look, I went 27 miles round trip to lose in Culver City. I'm not going 6,000 miles to England. Because I was up against Stephen Merchant again. I said, he beat me 3 weeks ago. Why would I want to go to London and I'll go that far to be, only to be humiliated long distance? And that should prove my theories. If you don't show up, you have a better chance of winning. Because I won a BAFTA last... I know. I can't believe it. I got a British Academy Award. I was afraid to really make it known for fear that they would like recalibrate and take it back. So, but now I've had it long enough so that I can feel secure about it. But listen, I'm not warmed up, and it's sort of I've got to get back in the head. The Joker here. Now, see, I don't want to do that. You know, when you watch, like, Gina Haver will not do Marge Simpson unless you saw inside the actor's studio, she held a mask up in front of her face. And I totally get it because it really destroys the illusion. And so I'm sort of self-conscious about it because, I mean, when it's all finished with the animation and the music and the writing, which is so great, it's thrilling, you know, and even I don't react like it's me. It's really a completely like out-of-body experience to see finished Joker product. So when I get stopped at Toys R Us or in the aisles of the grocery store and a kid goes, do the Joker voice, I say, okay, well, close your eyes. And it's amazing how trusting they are. They immediately do that. And if I did it to you, you're going, hey, what are you trying to pull? You know, with my wallet, son of a bitch. People are suspicious, but kids will either close their eyes or turn their back, and then you can just rip. Because you can't do Joker subtly, you just have to really let it roar. And it's so ironic to me, because I went to Broadway to do character parts that weren't coming to me in television and film, and I got to do so many things that I always wanted to do on Broadway. But then, when I did the Joker for the first time in '92, can you imagine? It's 21 years ago. I never again foresaw how, first of all, the longevity of it, and secondly, how satisfying it was. I mean, I just didn't imagine that in an animated cartoon, I'd find a character that I found so fulfilling and so much fun to play. I love that guy. Because he's crazy, and you know, if you're crazy, you're unpredictable, by definition. And if you're unpredictable, then you're never boring. Yeah. Too bad he's dead. But I tell people, I don't want to give any, no spoilers here, but if you played Arkham City, it doesn't end very well. And they said, yeah, well, come on. How many times have you been killed as the Joker? And I said, well, if you count, you know, just in the comic books alone, that's, you know, a true comic book fan doesn't accept death as a good excuse. They don't believe you, number one. But that's the plans, that would be the last one, the Arkham City it was.
Who wins in a fight, Luke Skywalker or the Joker?
Well, that's an interesting, I don't know. I mean, I sort of like have, it's like the perfect split tug of war of affection. Because, you know, I'd like to think that Joker could use his criminal wiles to outwit Luke, but like I say, I mean, and again, this is really interesting because I'm trying to think, you know, where would Luke be now, all these years later? Because I haven't really had to think about it because it was just an academic question. And I've never read any of the novels or follow-ups People say, hey, dude, you're married. Mara Jade, ooh, she's smoking hot. I go, well, that would have been nice if they thought of that, you know, when I was actually involved. Because, you know, it was like the ultimate good news, bad joke. The good news is there is an attractive woman in the universe, only one. The bad news is she's your sister. Oh, really? Okay.
We're running out of time.
Oh, we are, okay.
One more question.
There's
The young guy who won the Chewbacca contest.
Oh, wow, you did a great job. Yes? Better not be a math question. My weak spot.
Well, I'm an actor, and I was saying if there was an audition for the new Star Wars.
See, I love the way this kid thinks. Yeah, why waste his time? Let's cut to the chase. What's in it for me?
Another question.
No, I'm sure there will be, you know, but I'm the wrong person to be talking to, you know. Knowing you'll get your name to the right person.
Gentleman in the Coke shirt.
Thank you. My favorite scene, possibly in the trilogy, is the one you share with Sebastian Shaw.
Yeah.
It's really emotional, and I just wondered, was that like a very close set that day, or were there still all the hundreds of people around? Like, what was
My memory was George was there that day, even though Richard Marquand was the director, but George was there because I think that was a really important scene for him. I do remember some of these actors got into their makeup so early. Like if I hadn't invited Ian McDermott to the house on a day off, we asked him to our house for a Sunday brunch just so I could see what he looked like. Because by the time I got in, he had like 4:30, 5 a.m. makeup calls, and he was already, you know, in his gear as the emperor, and he looked so much younger when he showed up to our house with that shock of red hair. Of course, now he's about the age that he should have been then. But a wonderful actor, and the same with Sebastian Shaw. I mean, his makeup and his costume and the way it was all rigged up was such that he wasn't like popping up after takes and sitting in the chair, you know. He was like sort of reclined on the floor, and they'd get a pillow for his head and so forth. And I just saw him on Turner Classic Movie, and I'm blanking on the film that it was, but he must have been in his 20s. So, I mean, I have a great reverence for the character actors that were in those movies, and, you know, I really felt badly that... was this the one where he's still in it?
Yeah.
Okay. Because, you know, I have a son, Nathan. Oh, this is his shirt, by the way. He designed the shirt. Who, you know, will keep me abreast. He goes, oh my God, Dad, you know what? Guido shoots first now. I go, wait, you know. Let's put this in perspective. Who cares? He goes, no, baby, you know, and I understand. See, he's my barometer of what is important to a Star Wars fan because I lose track of it. You don't understand, you know, part of the job of an actor, and I remember really thinking this when I was on a soap opera, is not the material that you memorize, it's the material that you have to flush from your memory banks just so you have room for more lines. I mean, I don't know how those people on soap operas do it. I was only on for 9 months. And it was just incredibly difficult because unless you stayed really focused, they could trick you into a line from 3 weeks ago. Because they're always talking about, did you tell Aunt Jessie that Bill has been embezzling money? I mean, it's endless exposition. And so with Star Wars, I thought, you know, I've got to leave it behind. As much as I loved it and was so intensely into it and wanting to know all the minutiae and all the details, I loved all that, what planet the Wookiees are from and all of that stuff. But once it was over, I thought, I've got to let it go. Otherwise, it's going to be like moving out of a house that you grew up in and the new tenants come in and, you know, give it a new paint job, and it's all these strangers playing with your toys, you know. You know, you get real possessive of these things. You can have a lightsaber too, you know. But people get like that. I remember when I said to Carrie, I said, did you hear we're going to be brother and sister? She said, yeah, I heard that. I said, so does that make me royalty? And she immediately went, no! Oh, okay. Just asking. People get really possessive of these things.
The last question I have is, you mentioned you have kids who are into the Star Wars universe. What's it like you had kids who were born around the time you were working on these movies?
Yeah, Nathan was born in England when we were doing Empire Strikes Back. Griffin was born on the road when I was doing Amadeus, which I was on the road to Broadway. He was born in San Francisco. And Chelsea was the only one that was born here in Southern California. And Griffin's not really a big fan. He likes, Werner Herzog, and David Cronenberg. I mean, he doesn't dislike these movies, but he's not like Nathan where he knows details.
So what's it like? What's that experience like being the actor who played Luke Skywalker when you're
Well, you know,
all their friends?
Well, let me give you an example. I remember when I was like 11 years old, I would say, wow, can you imagine if Jerry Lewis was your father? You'd be laughing all day long. And then you realize that when you grow up, of course that's not true. So I think they just put it in perspective, you know? I mean, Nathan came home from his first sleepover and he seemed kind of down. And I said, what's the problem? And he goes, well, Josh's parents doesn't have any toys. And I said, Josh's father is a lawyer. You know, because he's in my room where I have Batmobiles and puppets and board games, the Patty Duke board game, the jumping DJ, the pull the string Cecil game, all this stuff. It's just my thing. You know, one of the things I did when I acquired a little money was buy all the toys I wanted when I was a kid and I couldn't have. Yeah. No, I look at this audience and I see all these beautiful, youthful faces. And I don't mean that just chronologically. I mean mentally young as well. Because I feel like these movies are for kids of all ages. And that's why I'm really I want to be circumspect when it comes to when I criticize in any way, you know, because they can take a small thing that you say, and they say, what do you think of the prequels? I said, well, ours were funnier. And they blow that up, and my point is that the prequels weren't meant to be as,
exciting.
They were much more solemn for a reason. I'm glad that they had their own identity and atmosphere, but you just have to be really careful because I don't want to criticize other people's work. I love George and I don't want to hurt his feelings. I mean, you know, it's like you can criticize America and then if you go to Europe and you hear other people criticizing you get your dander up. You know, I can't tell you how many times I say, Jar Jar was supposed to be irritating. He's irritating to the other characters in the movie. You know, because what I'm saying? I defend the prequels totally because that's, George's choice. He earned the right to do what he wanted to do. He became the studio. He wasn't just the director and the writer, but he was the studio as well. So those aren't sort of the movies he wanted to make. Those are exactly the movies he wanted to make. And, I'm not going to criticize them at all. Yeah.
Everybody,
thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's not what he's here for. And he's being nice about it.
I'm surprised you actually